this is deep.
Did you use like your camera or you use an extra?
No, I use my camera.
Oh.
And I just adjust all of the exposure and
That's so
everything.
good.
It ends up working.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those.
Hello? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا عبته من الضعف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وسمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وسمرة فؤادي فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدن الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه والسلام عليك يا من اختار الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافع أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء، ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت: السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال: وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء، فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومأ بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال: اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل البيت وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمه لحمي ودمهم دمي، يعلمني ما يعلموهم ويحزنني ما يحزنوهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم، وسلم لمن سالمهم، وعدو لمن عاداهم، ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على. فقال الله عز وجل: يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات، إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا كمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال أمين جبرائيل: يا ربي ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل: هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن رسالاتي، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها. فقال جبرائيل: يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله: نعم قد أذنت لك. فحابت الأمين جبرائيل، قال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله. قال: السلام عليك يا رسول الله، علي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويأخذك بالتحية والإكرام ويأكل لك وعزات جلالي. إني ما خلقت سماعا مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا كمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيعة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجليكم ومحبتيكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تذان لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله: وعليك السلام يا آمن وحي الله، إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي: إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يأكلوا، إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. فقال علي لأبي: يا رسول الله أخبرني ما في جلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. قال النبي: والذين بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالات نجيا، ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لا لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. قال علي: إذن والله فزنا إذا والله فذنا وفوذ شيعتنا رب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذين بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالات نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيهم جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مغموم إلا وفرج الله حما ومغموم إلا كشف الله غما ولا تالب حاجة إلا قضى الله حاجة. قال علي إذا والله فذنا وسعدوا وكذلك شيعتنا فوذا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
ایک درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد. ایک مرتبہ اور درود بھیجیے بآواز بلند مار. اللہم صلی علی محمد. یا علی مظہر ایمان تجھے جان گئے. یا علی مظہر ایمان تجھے جان گئے. حد سے گزرے جو نصیری تو خدا مان گئے. اور لاکھ ڈالے تیری تصویر پہ تہرے پردے. لاکھ ڈالے تیری تصویر پہ تہرے پردے. پھر بھی پہچاننے والے تجھے پہچان گئے. یا علی مظہر. درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد. سلام کے چند اشارے. اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا زینب. اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا زینب. خون دل سے میں لکھوں گا تیرا اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا مکر قابل میں جب ڈھلنے لگا زوں میں یزید مکر قابل میں جب ڈھلنے لگا زوں میں یزید فخر حابیل نے دیکھا تیرا چہرہ زینب اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا تیری عظمت کی گواہی تو یہی کافی ہے تیری عظمت کی گواہی تو یہی کافی ہے جس تیرے کوئی نہیں ثانی زہرا زینب اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا قصر شاہی میں تیرے روب سے سناٹا قصر شاہی میں تیرے روب سے سناٹا ہے سامنے ظلم کے کیا کہہ دیا ایسا زینب اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا شام والوں کے مقدر میں اجالے نہ رہے شام والوں کے مقدر میں اجالے نہ رہے کر کے گل ایسا چراغوں کو گئی ہے زین اشک تو کر چکا نظر غم مولا اور اس لیے بھی غم سرور میں رواں ہیں آنسو اس لیے بھی غم سرور میں رواں ہیں ارے بھائی کی لاش پہ رو بھی نہ سکی ہے زین بھائی کی لاش پہ رو بھی نہ سکی ہے زین اشک تو کر چکا نظر درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد فاتحہ اللہم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم ایک مرتبہ درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد مرثیے کے چند بعد بی بی زینب کی شہادت کے آپ لوگوں کی نظر ایک مرتبہ اور درود بھیجیے محمد. جاں کا ہے زینب کی اسیری کا فسان، دربار یزید ستم ایجاد کا جان، پھر چھوڑ کے اس خانہ برباد میں گزرا تھا اس سے بھی ابھی ایسا نہ زمان، گزرا تھا اس سے بھی ابھی ایسا نہ زمان، کچھ غم نہ غم شاہ خوش اقبال ہوئے تھے، قتل شہ مظلوم کو 2 سال ہوئے، قتل شہ مظلوم کو 2 سال، بدظن جو ہوا آہا یزید ستم جا، کیا قہر ہے پھر قید ہوئے عابد ناشا، پھر زیور آہن انہیں پہنا گئے جلا، لاچار سوئے شام چلے سید سر، لاچار سوئے شام چلے سید سر، رنج شاہ والا میں گرفتار تھی زینب، لکھا ہے کہ اس عہد میں بیمار تھی زینب، لکھا ہے کہ اس عہد میں بیمار تھی، رستے میں بھتیجے سے ملی زینب ناچ، پہنچی میں سجاد کسی دشت میں ایک بار، اور اس روز رہے شب کو ہے وہ عابد بھی، منہ ڈھانپ کے روئیں جو سوئے صبح کے آس، منہ ڈھانپ کے روئیں جو سوئے صبح کے آس، عابد سے کہا خواب میں آ جائے تھے بھائی، تشریف ہمیں دیکھنے کو لائے تھے بھائی، تشریف ہمیں دیکھنے کو لائے تھے بھائی، کہتے تھے چلو ساتھ ہمارے بہناؤ، آخر ہوئی مدت رنج و محنہ، ہم آئے ہیں لینے کو امیر رسنا، اے خواہر مغموم و غریب الوطنا، اے خواہر مغموم و غریب الوطن، آ جاؤ گی فردوس میں ہر غم سے چھوٹو گی، ہم تم سے جدا ہوں گے نہ تم ہم سے چھوٹو گی، ہم تم سے جدا ہوں گے نہ تم ہم سے چھوٹو گی، بس پہر ملاقات برادر گئی زین، زیر شجر سمر قضا کر گئی زین، روتے رہے عابد سوئے کوثر گئیں زین جنگل میں برادر کی طرح مر گئیں زین جنگل میں برادر کی طرح مر گئیں زین فضا نے کہا پیٹ کے فریاد خدا کے لو احمد مرسل کی نواسی نے قضا لو احمد مرسل کی نواسی نے قضا کی جاں کا ہے زینب کی اسیری کا فسانہ
رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة الفاتحہ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمدللہ رب الرحمن ایاک نستعین صراط ایک دفعہ اور سورہ فاتحہ کی تلاوت کر کے آج کے جو اسپانسر ہیں برادر سید محمد عباس رضوی کے مرحومین کی روح کو اسحال کریں. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم الحمد للہ الذی قصرت عن رؤیتہ ابصار الناظرین وعجزت عن نعتہ اوہام الواصفین الحمد للہ رب العالمین الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Condolences on this sad occasion, 15th of Rajab, which marks the Wafat of daughter of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the daughter of Janab al-Sayyidah, Sharikatul Hussain, sister of Hassan al-Mushtaba, Janab Zainab al-Kubra, Salamullahi alayha. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. I recited this ayat from Surah Shura, very well-known ayat of Quran, which of course is amongst those ayat that is a testament toward the mawaddat and the love of Ahlul Bayt, which is an obligation upon us. This ayat is not something which is recommending to us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking for something. He says to his Prophet, "Qul, O Prophet, tell them, La asalukum alayhi ajran. I do not seek any compensation from you except love and mawaddat for my Ahlul Bayt, my Ahl Qurba." It is interesting that this ayat uses the feminine tense of the word aqrab. If you know, there's another ayat of Quran when Rasulullah began his mission. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him what? وَأَنذِرْ أَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. O Prophet, warn your close relatives. Aqrabeen, relatives. Here he says, qurba comes from the same root, but only mu'annath. Meaning what? Referring to the only daughter of Rasulullah, Janab Fatmatul Zahra, Salamullahi alayha. And of course, the descendants of Fatmatul Zahra, amongst which the first daughter that was born to her was Janab Zainab. Wiladat is mentioned either in the month of Shaban and in other months as well. Similarly, as far as the Wafat is concerned, it is known to be that it is 15th day of the month of Rajab al-Murajjab in the 62nd year after Hijrah. If you realize 62nd year after Hijrah is only 1 year after the events of Karbala. That tells you that Janab Zainab survived only for 1 year after seeing those heart-wrenching events with her own eyes, carrying over from Imam Hussein this caravan, bringing them back safely to Medina. And once this amanat was returned, then she bids farewell and she leaves this world. Unfortunately, the tariq and the books of history are quiet as far as her life before Karbala and after Karbala. Now, after Karbala, you can understand that she only lived for a year. But before Karbala, she is there for at least 54 years. Yeah, we don't find much as far as the shama'il and the attributes, or we do find about the attributes because she displayed all of them in Karbala. But we don't find much about her life prior to Karbala. The only few incidents that people who have documented books about her, for example, both Ahl Tasannun and Ahl Tashayyu have written a great deal about Janab Zainab. But if you pick up any of these books, you find the story begins from primarily Karbala. There will be a mention of the time when her mother passed away, when she was only 5 years old. There will be a mention of when Amir al-Mu'mineen became Khalifa al-Zahiri, went to Kufa. There's a mention of Janab Zainab at that time. Very little about her lifestyle and even her marriage to Hazrat Abdullah. And even now, when you speak about her masaib, the masaib of her children, Aun and Muhammad, are mentioned as if Aun and Muhammad were young children. But it's the contrary. They weren't young like Hazrat Qasim was young. They weren't 8 or 9 or 10 years old. They were older than that, as Irshad al-Mufid and other books highlight that fact. So you find very little about her life prior to Karbala, and of course you don't find much about after Karbala because she only lived for another year. But whatever you do find, there's a mufassir of Nahjul Balagha, a commentator by the name Marhum Fazul Islam, once he fell sick. And when he fell sick, he made this nadhr that, oh Allah, if you give me cure, I will write something about Janab Zainab Kubra Salamullah Alaiha. And of course, making such a nadhr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that cure, living at that time where medicine was not as advanced as it is today. He went ahead and he wrote a book on Janab Zainab, known Khatun Dosara. That's in Farsi. Another lady who wrote a book about Janab Zainab is Dr. Aisha bint Shati. She wrote a book called Zainab Batalul Karbala. Zainab, the hero of Karbala, or the brave of Karbala. The same lady also has a very extended book on Janab Sayyida, Wa'alamu Anni Fatima, 10 volumes. And so she documented and she wrote about Janab Zainab as well. But then you find other books that are written similarly. Muhammad Mehdi Taj Langrudi also documented Simaya Hazrat Zainab and other books that have been written about her. But majority of these books, as I mentioned, do not go in details about her lifestyle much. Primarily picking up a hadith that she narrated. She narrated from Rasulullah, because there's a hadith in which she speaks to both Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhima salatu wassalam, where she says, Sami'tu Rasulullah, that I heard Rasulullah say this. So of course she was 5-6 years old at the time of the Wafat of Rasulullah. A 5-6-year-old, especially living in the same household, grabs many things from the grandparents, and so she learned a great deal from Janabe Rasulullah, and she narrated few ahadith from him as well. But as far as her tragedy is concerned, we look at that even the place of her dafn and burial is a matter of ishkal. There are 3 possibilities as far as her place of dafn is concerned. One is mentioned to be Egypt, in Qahira. There's a mazar for her. Many of our scholars, you'll be surprised, many of the scholars, such as Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi, the one who has a library in Qom, or Syed Muhammad Hussain Jalali, who lived in Chicago for many years, passed away a couple of years ago. He has a book called Mazarat. In it, he mentions these 3 possibilities. Similar to Ayatollah Mar'ashi, concludes that she's buried in Egypt, in Misr. That is the strongest opinion as far as these 2 Buzurg personalities are concerned. Then some also mention that she is buried in present-day Sham, Dimashq, the outskirts of Dimashq, where it is mentioned there's a Rawza, people go there for the ziyarat, and that is the most, that's the popular stance of many of the ulama as well, that she is buried there. Why do they say that? They say, well, Hazrat Abdullah had some farms and gardens and stuff like that in Sham. Even today, this little fact, because I lived in Sham for 2 years during my studies, I know this for a fact, that many of the Arab countries where the weather is not very friendly in summertime, all these Gulf states, whether it be the Amarat, whether it be Oman, whether it be Yemen, or southern tip of Saudi Arabia, and all of these, Bahrain and Qatar and all these cities, all these countries, their weather is not very friendly during the summertime. It gets really hot. It's all desert. You know where they go for their vacations? They go to Sham. When I lived in Sham, I saw many of the cars which had the number plates from these countries, they would be in the city. After asking, they said, well, people come here for vacationing. Why? Because of the weather. Weather is much nice in Sham and all of Syria. But that was the reason why a lot of these Arabs would go ahead. Those who couldn't go to, for example, Europe and America, they would go for their vacations where? They would go to Syria. So it is possible that because of that reason, Hazrat Abdullah had these farms and gardens in Sham. And after Janab Zainab returned from this journey of hers from Karbala, Kufa, and Sham, she comes back. What does Janab Hazrat Abdullah do? He brings her back to Sham, where the weather was nicer, and wanted to get him away from, for example, Medina. That's what they'd say. Many doubt in this, saying that how can a lady who saw most of the suffering in Sham would be willing to go back to that city? Right? When you hear about the Masayib of Hazrat 4th Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he say? Did he say Al-Kufa, Al-Kufa, Al-Karba? No, he said what? Ash-Sham. The atrocities of Sham are mind-boggling. We cannot comprehend the atrocities. What these Ahl Haram saw with their own eyes. How they were treated in that land. So then it begs the question, do you think that after being tired and going around and suffering like this and then coming back to Madinatul Nabi, her hometown where she grew up, where she lived all her life, where her mother is buried, where her brother is buried, where Rasulullah is buried, would she want to leave that city then? So that begs the question. So some of them then mention, no, she's not buried there. She's actually buried where? In Madinatul Munawwara. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I know I may have casted some doubts on the grave in Sham, but it is mentioned that there is a Zainab that is buried there, or there is a daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen that is buried there. That is for sure. There's a daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen that is buried in Sham, in Dimashq. Who is that daughter? Some mention that could be Kulthum as well. Why? Because Kulthum was known as Zainab Sughra. She was known as Zainab Kubra, she was known as Zainab Sughra. Because of the name was similar, people believe that this is Zainab, that Zainab, who's Sharikatul Hussain, who was the older daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen. But nonetheless, that grave is authentic in Sham, in Dimashq, and there is a daughter of Amirul Mu'mineen that is buried there. And without a doubt, I can tell you this, that in that land, in that place, there's so many karamat that come about from that grave that there's no doubt the fact that there is a hasti which is buried there, which belongs to the household of Rasulullah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because even if she's not, anything that is associated to Ahlul Bayt develops that, sanctity. For example, this Kaaba that you go and perform the tawaf and do the Hajj and Umrah of, this is the replica of the Kaaba on Baytul Mamur. Rasulullah ascended to Mi'raj. He saw people doing the tawaf. He said, oh Allah, make this tawaf here as well. That's when the hukm of Hajj and Umrah was brought down. So they started doing. He saw angels doing tawaf of Baytul Mamur. He said, make something similar for us as well. Then Hajj became wajib upon us. So this Kaaba, which we have on this earth, is a replica of the Kaaba on Baytul Mamur. But look at the karamat of this Kaaba. What could be the more karamat of this Kaaba, which is called Baytullah, where the wiladat of Maulana Muttaqiyan, Amirul Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib ﷺ takes place. And I'll give you a bigger example than that. At least it's in a land where Ahl Haram walked and went and stayed for a while. Here in our Zari room, the replicas that we have, the respect that we pay to it, and people when they make their nadhr and when they do their mannat, it comes true as well. It is the aqidah that a person has, and it is the association to which this place is now referred to. Nisbat. I've given this example before, but there's no harm in repeating it, that this carpet that you're sitting on, there's certain ahkam of this carpet now. It's not an ordinary carpet. The carpet in your house and the carpet over here has difference as far as the fiqh of Islam is concerned. The Islamic laws are concerned. There are Islamic laws pertaining this carpet that you're sitting on right now, and there aren't any laws of the carpet that is in your house. What's the difference? This carpet may not be as expensive as the one that you have in your house, may not be as beautiful and colorful the one that you have in your house, but there aren't any rules of Islam that apply to that carpet, but there are rules of Islam that apply to this carpet. One of them is that you cannot make it najis. And if it does become najis, it's an obligation to go ahead and purify it right away, without any delay, even to the extent that if you were praying and the carpet of the masjid becomes najis, and if you can purify it while praying, you should do so. And if there's time in your salat and your salat is not becoming qaza, break your salat, purify the house of Allah, then go ahead and pray again. These are some of the rules of the masjid. Similarly, the walls and the doors and everything that becomes associated with this masjid. Similarly, that cloak which you see on top of Kaaba, kiswa, when it's being made, there's no value to it. There's no worth. But the moment it is attached to Kaaba, now it becomes that kiswa that is covering the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the zari of ma'asumin, you could take it from the same end. So all of these things definitely, when they are associated with Ahlul Bayt, there is this respect and sanctity and sacredness that comes along with it. Janab Zainab is someone whom we find that she resembles Hazrat Khadija, her grandmother, a great deal. If you draw up a comparison between the two, and the resemblance is so close, what are the resemblances that you find? Janab Khadija was a confidant and the supporter of Rasulullah. Throughout her life, she supported Rasulullah in thick and thin. She provided for him and she took care of him. Janab Zainab does the same thing for her brother Imam Hussein. She's the biggest confidant. She's the biggest supporter of Imam Hussein throughout this journey. Imam does not rely on other men in this journey to Karbala as much as he relies on Bibi Zainab salamullah alayha. That's why when our 11th Imam was asked in regards to him leaving his mother to be the official, the one who would be referred to as far as asking the masail is concerned after him. Because he knew his son will be in ghaibat, you won't be able to access. Who should we refer to? Refer to my mother, who was known as Jaddah to Imam Zamana. He said, why are you leaving a woman to be your representative after you? Who has done this before? Is there any precedent? Imam responded, yes. My Jad Imam Hussein did the same thing. That when he left, he made Janab Zainab to be in his place, the supporter and take care, the one who took care of Imam Hazir, Imam Zaidul Abidin, alayhi salatu wasalam. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad par. Janab Khadija was a means of solace, and she was a means of sabr to Rasulullah. Guess what Zainab did? She did the same thing for Imam Hussein. When Imam Hussein loses his Qadi al-Jawan, Hazrat Ali Akbar, which is definitely not an easy thing. We hear the masaib of Hazrat Ali Akbar and we go past them. But when you realize losing someone in their Kamal al-Shabab, how hard it must have been for Imam Hussein. Yes, he's Imam, but he still has the fatherly emotions in him. Can you imagine? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows this phenomena regarding us humans so well, because He created us, that He doesn't even mention it in Quran when He talks about sacrifices. He says, we will test you with your wealth, with your selves, with your souls, with your thamarat. Doesn't say with your awlad. What does this ayah says? وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِالشَّيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْسِم مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. Naqsim min al-amwal, mal, it's known. That when he says, your nufus, meaning we'll take your lives, we'll test you with it, no problem. But when it comes to awlad, Allah does not say, we will test you with your children by taking their lives. Knowing that it is a very critical mas'ala, Allah uses the word thamarat. That we will test you with your thamara. Everybody translated the word thamara as what? Thamarat in Arabic, here is kinaya for your children, for your awlad. What are the fruits? Fruits are the awlad. With that said, we find that Janab Zainab, when Imam Hussein loses Hazrat Ali Akbar, it is difficult upon him. How does she deal with this so that it does not affect Imam Hussein? She comes up and she takes all the limelight. She starts crying and weeping so loud that everybody's attention was towards Zainab. Hussein started worrying about Zainab that he forgot that he has just lost his son. That's psychologically speaking, that you want to draw someone's attention away from the loss that they just had. This is how Janab Zainab was a supporter of Imam Hussein. Salawatullah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Khadija gave all her wealth for Islam. Zainab, along with her wealth, she also gave the sacrifice of her children as well. Khadija took care of Prophet when both of them were hurt after losing their infant children. Janab Zainab is doing what? Sending her children toward the maqtal, that I won't forgive you if you came back alive. Janab Khadija is someone that when Rasulullah was hurt, that when people almost tried to kill him, Rasulullah would go to the Ghar Hira for retreat. She would bring food for him. Janab Zainab is doing the same thing after Imam Hussein gets struck. And when Imam Hussein is feeling in a sense where he's being attacked, she goes up to Tille Zainabiyya as well, looking around for her brother. And then when she sees that he's about to be martyred, she speaks to Ibn Ziyad, she speaks to Ibn Sa'd, Yabna Sa'd, ayuqtalo Abu Abdullah wa anta tandiru ilayhi. How come you're not doing anything? Oh, Pisare Sa'd, my brother is being killed and you're not doing anything. Look at her role, how you can compare it with Hazrat Khadija and the similarities that can be drawn from it. Similarly, Hazrat Zainab is someone, you can compare her with Hazrat Hajar, the wife of Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ as well. Why the similarity that you find? In fact, you were able to compare her with Hazrat Khadija. Here you find Zainab is superior as far as her sacrifice is concerned in front of Hajar, wife of Hazrat Ibrahim. Hazrat Ibrahim asks Hajar, prepare my son, I want to take him for sacrifice. Although she lets him go, but there's this feeling that is inside which she mentions afterwards. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finished the test, Hazrat Ismail was not slaughtered. There was only mark of the blade on his neck when the father brought him back, saying that Allah was only testing us. It is mentioned that Hazrat Hajar looks at the neck of her son with the sign of a cut on it, with the blade, and she goes unconscious. But you want to see the Zainab Salamullah Alaiha is that in Karbala, she sees all these children of Banu Hashim were slaughtered in front of her. Yes, she kept her composure. That is the sabr of someone who receives the title Ummur Razaya, who showed, of course, she displayed that immense sabr and kept her tongue in check by not opening it up for in case that she goes ahead and makes dua or bad dua against someone. We see that there are many similarities that could be found. Zainab is someone who did not for 1 second think as far as the sacrifice of her kids is concerned. You read this or you hear this in the Masaib as well. I'll skip past that, inshallah, bring it back towards the Masaib. But when all is said and done, when all the qurbanis have been given, you know the word that comes out of the tongue of Janab Zainab? Allahumma taqabbal minna hadal qaleel. These are the words and some of the words that I will share of kalam of Janab Zainab are at the peak of irfan. They are at the peak of mysticism. Why? Because someone who lost, unless you look at it from the aspect, which of course is not true about Janab Zainab, someone who is in shock would say something like this. When you see someone who gets into shock, then they'll start saying anything. That's okay, nothing is wrong, nothing is wrong. You want to make them cry. Someone goes into a shock and they're unable to show their emotions. No, that's not what's happening with Janab Zainab. When after giving all the sacrifices, she says, Allahumma taqabbal minna hadal qaleel. She's in her conscience when she's saying all of this. Why? She knows that anything given in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it be Hussein ibn Ali, it is qaleel. Why? Hussein sacrificed himself for the sake of this religion, for the sake of this deen, the deen which Rasulullah had brought. So she uses the word qaleel, not in a derogatory sense. Rather, she uses this word at the peak of her irfan in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As far as the bravery of Janab Zainab is concerned, you look at the bravery of hers on the day of Ashur. You look at the bravery of her a day after Ashur. And you look at the bravery of hers in the court of Ibn Ziyad, and you see her bravery in the court of Yazid. These are 4 occasions that you find any lady would have given up. That what am I going to do at this point? There aren't any men left. But you'll see the leadership of Zainab starts to shine the moment Imam Hussein departs this world. How does she display this? She now becomes the caretaker. She's not the one who's Sharikatul Hussein. She has to take care of whom? The children of Hussein. She has to take care of the ladies in this household. Those who have now just become widows, she's taking care of all of them. In fact, the most important responsibility that is on her shoulders is Imam Zainul Abidin. That's why Hamid ibn Muslim mentions that I saw on the day of Ashur when the tents were alight, that there was this lady who was going from one tent to another, and then she was going into this tent which was up on fire, coming back out, back and forth. And I asked her, oh lady, did you leave something important and valuable in this tent? She said, nothing is left except my nephew Zainul Abidin. And then he said that I saw this scene, that we see this lady comes out of this tent with this young man on her shoulder as she brought him out, rescuing Imamat of the time. We see her bravery on the day of 11th of Muharram, how she carried the entire caravan, bringing everybody on top of, mounting them onto their rides. And when their turn comes, she looks towards Maymama, she looks towards Maysara, she looks towards Abbas, she looks towards Hussein, but does not call upon anyone, knowing that they're sleeping after the martyrdom. She helps Imam Zainul Abidin mount onto the horse. Then she helps even Fidda mount the horse. This is how she does that. But she remembers how when they were leaving the city of Medina, how everybody was taking care of her. You want to see her leadership? You see when they arrive in Kufa, how she speaks in the lahja of Amirul Mu'mineen. When she starts to speak, even the animals know that this is something important. They stop making noise. The bells that were hanging on the necks of the animals, they become silent as well. Here Zainab speaks. As she speaks, Abdullah ibn Afif says, has Qayamat taken place? He was blind. Daughter said, no, Qayamat hasn't taken place. But there's a lady who's speaking. He said, I hear the sound of my Maula Amirul Mu'mineen. He said, no, it's not your Maula Amirul Mu'mineen. It is the daughter of your Maula Amirul Mu'mineen. He's speaking in the lahja of Amirul Mu'mineen. You want to see the bravery of Zainab is that when she gets in front of Ibn Ziyad, when he wants to kill Imam Zainul Abidin, she says what? Oh, Ibn Ziyad, you must shed my blood first before you can touch my nephew. You want to see the bravery of Zainab? You go see her khutbah in the court of Yazid when she speaks to this Khalifa of the time, this tyrant ruler of the time, is speaking to him where nobody dares to open their tongue. She speaks and eloquently does she. She says, oh Yazid, you think that you have achieved something? No, beware of the day when you will be held accountable for doing what you have done to the Sabaya and the children of Rasulullah. The famous words that she utters at that point, she says, Amanil adl, is it from your adl, yabnat tulaqa? She addresses him at what? As yabnat tulaqa. You know why? Because he is the son of the ones who were freed by Rasulullah at the conquest of Makkah. Imagine the courage that Janab Zainab possessed. As far as her ibadat is concerned, she is at the peak of her ibadat. In ta'uddu ni'matallah la tuhsuha. If you were to count all the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will never be able to count them. There are many ways of doing the ibadat. At-turuqu ila Allah bi'adadil anfas al-khalaiq. The many ways of getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as your bodily ibadat toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your financial ibadat toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these are ibadat which brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We find that majmu in the zat of Janab Zainab, to the extent that sometimes you and I are heedless of our monetary ibadat, that khums is wajib upon us, zakat is wajib upon us, these other charities are obligatory upon us. Forget about these, then those daily ibadat, these are wajib upon us. Yes, sometimes we become heedless. No, I didn't pray today. I didn't pray yesterday. I missed my salat the other day. I didn't fast in Ramadan because I wasn't feeling well. I didn't go to Hajj although I had all the money in the world. I didn't give zakat. I didn't give khums because of this reason or that reason. We are so heedless sometimes. But look at Janab Zainab, that she does not even miss her salatul layl, even on the night of Hadi Ashar of the month of Muharram al-Haram. The 11th of Muharram, when Qayamat has taken place on the day of Ashur. You know what are the words of Imam Hussein on the day of Ashur, Asr Ashur, before his martyrdom? Imam Hussein goes up to Zainab, Ya ukhta la tansini fi nafilatil layl. Oh my sister, do not forget me in your namaz shab. You know why? Because Imam Hussein has absolute belief that even in such dire situations where there aren't any tents, they're on the sand in the middle of this desert, there might not be water available for them to drink, but at the same time, Zainab is someone so obligated toward her ibadat that she won't even miss the mustahab ibadat. You know how easily we skip through our ibadat? Here, this is the point where we need to pick it up from Ma'asumin, learn from their examples, and learn from the family of Ma'asumin as Janab Zainab portrayed as far as her life is concerned. Inshallah, I'll have more time to discuss about some of the fadail of Janab Zainab at another time. I wanted to speak about some of the things that she has said which are at the level of irfan. She spoke to Imam Hussein, asking Imam Hussein a few questions, such as, just for example, she asked Imam Hussein, oh my brother, is your musibat bigger or the musibat of Hazrat Adam? Response of Imam Hussein. He said, oh my brother, is your musibat bigger than the musibat of Hazrat Ibrahim? The answer of Imam Hussein. Oh my brother, is your musibat bigger or the musibat of Hazrat Zakaria, Hazrat Yahya, Hazrat Isa? And then she asked one after another, and then the reply that is given by Imam Hussein is equally important to know how Imam Hussein responded to each of her questions. She is someone who brought us closer to understanding wajibat and muharramat. She said in that hadith she narrates from Rasulullah, that I heard from Rasulullah who said that halal is bayyin, haram is bayyin. You know, that which is halal, it is known. That which is haram, it is known. You can tell this is halal and this is haram. But the gray area in between halal and haram, that is where a lot of people make mistake. Whenever you are in that gray area, the best way of dealing with it is to avoid that, and that way you will be able to safeguard yourselves. Why? Because al-luqmatul haram yubinu fi durriya. One haram morsel will have its effects on the generations to come. These are all the teachings of Janab Zainab. Another important teaching of Janab Zainab is how she protected her hijab, how she was someone that did not leave her house even to go to the ziyarat of her mother except at night time. Amir al-Mu'mineen, whenever Zainab wanted to go to the grave of Janab Sayyidah, which is of course unknown to us, he would take her at night time. That's why maybe this grave remained unknown, that nobody went after Janab Zainab's wafat to this grave, and she never went during the daytime. She always went at the night time. Zainab was someone that even her next door neighbor said, I never heard the voice of Zainab. I never saw Zainab, let alone hearing the voice of Zainab. How she protected her hijab. There's some afkar today where people say that Zainab's hijab was taken away in Karbala. For that reason, we won't do hijab either. These are not the ways of looking at the legacy of Zainab. Only when there was majburi, she asks the mas'ala from Imam Zainul Abidin. Oh my son, oh my nephew, should we die burning inside the tents, or should we leave and protect ourselves, but at the stake of giving up our hijabs? Imam Zainul Abidin said, oh my aunt, anti alimatun ghayru muallima wa fahimatun ghayru mufhima. Oh my aunt, you are alima, you know this well. Protecting your life is far more superior than anything else. Therefore leave the tents, even in the state that you don't have hijab on your head. When the enemy was attacking the tents, one of the daughters of Hussein, Fatima Kubra, she fell on the ground, and when she woke up, she did not have any head coverings. Zainab said to her, oh Beti, oh my daughter, let's go, we have to leave the tents. Fatima said, I don't have any covering on my head, how am I going to go out? She said, oh my daughter, look at your aunt's head. Your aunt does not have any hijab either. Ajrukum Allah, may Allah give you no grief, no sorrow except the grief and the sorrow of Ahlul Bayt. Zainab, her task was that much difficult when she stands in the court of Yazid. When they say, Zainab, who is this lady? Yazid said, they said, this is the daughter of Ali. This is the daughter of Fatima. Yazid said, I want to speak to her. One of the alims of Qum said, when this Masai was being recited, the reciter said, Yazid wanted to speak to Zainab. He said, don't read any further. This is enough of a musibat. That someone like Yazid was ham kalam with Zainab. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief and the sorrow except the grief and sorrow of Ahlul Bayt. A few more words. That Zainab, when she spoke to Yazid, after which he sees Imam Zainul Abidin and he wants to attack Imam, Zainab again becomes that sipar, that shield, and says, oh Yazid, have you not killed enough people? Yazid says, strike Zainab. This is where Fidda stands in front of Zainab. Oh Yazid, if you strike Zainab, you'll have to go through me. She looks at all of those Habshi Ghulam and directs them and speaks to them. What is wrong with your izzat and honor? A lady from your town and your tribe is under attack and there is no honor for you. All these Habshi Ghulam took out their swords. Oh Yazid, if anyone touched Fidda, we will not spare anyone. Zainab must have felt alone at that time, looking towards Medina, looking towards Najaf. Oh Baba, the time has come on your daughter that there aren't any people, there aren't anyone who will go ahead and speak for the himayat of your daughter. Yet there are many who are standing up for the Kanis Fidda. Zainab left this world in in the state after having seen all the events of Karbala in the 62nd year after Hijrah, the martyrdom. I'm sure it was a martyrdom, the way she had seen all the events when she was buried and laid to rest, the atrocity on top of atrocity. We don't know which is the actual grave of Zainab, but at least, oh Zainab, you were buried with all of the last rituals. But come to your mother Fatima Zahra that you weren't allowed to weep. Ala lanatullah al-qawm al-zalimin. Wa sayalamu allazina zalamu ayyamun qalimin yanqalibun. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allah, please accept our ibadah tonight. Allah, we've committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Allah, give us the tawfiq and ability to follow the commands and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah, give us the tawfiq to follow the seerat of Janab Zainab Kubra salamullahi alayha. Allah, give us the tawfiq that we are amongst those who are mahshur with Janab Zainab Kubra on the Day of Judgment. Allah, hasten the reappearance of our weighted Imam. Make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Umar wa akhir da'wana. And alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Matame Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. بات آئے گی پردے کی تو یاد آئے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے کی تو یاد آئے گی، بات آئے گی پردے کی تو یاد آئے گی زینب، بات تاریخ غم و درد کو دہرائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی، بات آئے گی پردے کی، اٹھتی جو نہیں لاش جواں دیجیے آواز، اٹھتی جو نہیں لاش جواں، اٹھتی جو نہیں لاش جواں دیجیے آواز، پالا ہے تو لاشا بھی اٹھا لائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے نا، بات آئے گی پردے کی تو یا کس کس کو سنبھالے گی، کس سے دے گی تسلی، کس 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 کو سنبھالے گی، کسے دے گی تسلی، جلتے ہوئے خیموں سے کسے لائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پر سر ننگ جسے دیکھ کے سورج بھی نہ نکلا، سر ننگ جسے دیکھ کے سورج بھی نہ نکلا، اب سر کھلے بلوے میں وہی جائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے کی مچلے گی جو سونے کے لیے رات کو بچی، مچلے گی جو سونے مچلے گی جو سونے کے لیے رات کو بچی، کیا دے کے تسلی اسے بہلائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے چادر ہی کا دے دیتی کفن چھین لی وہ بھی، چادر کفن چھین لی وہ بھی، چادر ہی کا دے دیتی کفن چھین لی وہ بھی، اب بھائی کو کس طرح سے دفنائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے یاد آئے گی زینب، بات آئے گی پردے، پرسے کو انیس آئیں گے اور پوچھیں گے احوال، پرسے کو انیس آئیں، پرسے کو انیس آئیں گے اور پوچھیں گے احوال، کس کس کو نشان دروں کے دکھلائے گی زینب، بات آئے گی، بات آئے گی پردے کی تو یاد آئے گی زینب، حسین 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 حسین، اللہم صلی علی۔
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، ان اللہ ملائکتہ یصلون علی النبی یا ایہا الذین آمنوا صلوا علیہ وسلموا تسلیما، اللہم صل علی محمد وآل محمد، سبحان اللہ والحمد للہ ولا الہ الا اللہ واللہ اکبر وللہ الحمد۔ اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر، اللہ اکبر اللہ اکبر، اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ، اشہد ان لا الہ الا اللہ، اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم، اشہد ان محمد رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم، اشہد ان امیر المؤمنین وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله، أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله، حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل، الله أكبر الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، اللہم واجعل قلبي بارا ولسارا وشكارا ورزقي دارا وأولادي أبرارا واجعلني عند قبر نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم